After the triads, the next most common group of chords are what is referred to as the seventh chords. Their name is derived from the fact that they include the seventh degree of the scale. The seventh chords are a bit more complex than triads because they have 4 notes rather than 3. Seventh chords are at the foundation of jazz harmony, and they're often incorporated into pop music, especially into more sophisticated pop music. A big part of the reason why they're not included more in hard rock, punk, heavy metal, and other more aggressive forms of rock music is primarily due to the fact that these styles rely heavily on distorted guitars, which aren't particularly well suited to more complex chord types. Other styles like funk and disco, though, which usually have cleaner guitar sounds, do tend to incorporate seventh chords. There are basically 5 essential types of seventh chords: major seventh, minor seventh, dominant seventh, half diminished seventh, and diminished seventh. All of these seventh chords contain either the major, minor, or diminished triads, but expand on them with the addition of the seventh. Let's take a look at how they're constructed. Take a C major seventh chord. This chord is made up of the notes C, E, G, and B. As you can see, the C, E, and G here make up a C major triad. It's the B, which is the naturally occurring seventh in the diatonic scale, that makes this a seventh chord. The sound of the major seventh is a very pretty and rich sound. You hear it in a ton of jazz and R&B, amongst many other styles. If you compare it to the regular major triad, you can hear that it's a bit more complex in sound and density. The formula for a major seventh chord is a major third, followed by a minor third, followed by a major third. In the case of the minor seventh, we add the flat seventh degree to a basic minor triad. So our minor seventh chord in the key of C would consist of C, E flat, G, and B flat. Here we have the minor triad C, E flat, and G with the addition of the flatted seventh, or B flat. The formula is minor third, followed by a major third, followed by a minor third. Again, I think of the minor seventh as being a richer form of the minor triad, although maybe not as rich as the sound of the major seventh. That's probably due to the fact that the major seventh chord contains that semitone interval from the natural seventh to the tonic, which creates a really nice rub. The minor seventh has a whole step interval between the flatted seventh and the tonic, which is a little less dense. Minor seventh chords are all over the place, in bossa nova music to Fela Kuti style Afrobeat to moody R&B. Now, for the dominant seventh chord, we go back to the major triad, but this time adding the flatted seventh. A C dominant seventh chord would consist of C, E, G, and B flat. The formula here is major third, minor third, and a minor third. Dominant seventh chords are an important part of composition because they strongly establish a feeling of resolution back to the tonic chord. We'll find out more about this when we discuss chord progressions and modulation, but for now, let's look at an example to illustrate the point. Chords that fall in the 5th degree of the diatonic scale are most often followed by resolution to the tonic chord. If we were in the key of C major, let's say, the 5 chord would be a G major triad, G, B, and D. The B, which is the major third of the G chord, is a very strong note in that chord, and resolves very strongly into the root note C when it moves to the C major 1 chord. By making the 5 chord a dominant seventh by the inclusion of the F, however, we create an even stronger feeling of resolution. because now not only do we have the strong B resolving to the tonic C, but we also have the F resolving strongly to the E, which is a very important note, the major third in the tonic C major chord. The dominant 7th chord doesn't always have to resolve to the tonic chord, however. Often, in music like funk for example, it's repeated over and over during an extended jam. James Brown tracks are full of funky dominant 7th chord jams. This kind of makes sense because if you think about it, you can jam on dominant 7th chords without establishing a concrete feeling of major or minor. It's sort of an in-between sound. This is perfect for funk since it's not trying to be too pretty or too sad, but rather just groovy and danceable.